make the best out of what you're doing and turn it into an actual opportunity to interact with people or just learn from those people, right? It's a learning journey, right? And you always learn. Every new person has something to teach. You guys have a lot of data points. I see you've gone through a lot of things, right? That's really
That's what we do.
Just share whatever you're learning on a daily basis or just on a regular basis whenever you can. And when you're on the stage, don't be like someone who's on the stage. Be one of the people in the audience.
All our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them.
This is a story about the first female Google developer expert in Angular from India who loves to share her knowledge with others.
As an engineering student, she participated in National Microsoft Imagine Cup twice and connected with teachers and experts. Their guidance and encouragement inspired her and she started learning Angular.
From helping herself to helping others, she started writing curated blogs based on several domains which are quite informative and sharing it on her website named Unravel Web.
She gave several talks on Angular which include NG India 2019, Nepal's Angular Conference and many more. Through her constant perseverance and passion, she continued to explore Angular and ended up writing her first book named Step by Step Angular Routing.
With her constant contribution to the community, in the year 2020, she was awarded as the Angular GDE and Microsoft MVP. This was also the year when she started to work on new tech like React Framework, Golang, etc.
Recently, she has contributed a chapter on JavaScript in a book named Web Almanac. Besides, she has herself designed a detailed course titled A Hands-on Guide to Angular.
Starting from IBM as front-end developer to becoming a full-stack engineer at TheDataWorks and then at ePalette in Germany, she has come a long way.
Not only in tech, but also in social work, she's always been in the lead for the well-being of the underprivileged communities by giving them mental support, deserving love and respect.
Besides this, she feels proud to see women engaging in activities outside work and hence she tries to motivate women through her talks at events like Women's Day in Africa, IWD India, and keeps sharing her work with them on a regular basis.
Hello viewers, welcome back to the third episode of the CSI Show.
Thank you for joining us today.
I'm Ekta Harsh
And I'm Harsh
and we are your hosts for today. Let's give it up for Miss Nishu Goel.
Yay. Thank you so much, Nishu Ma'am, for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me. So excited to be here.
Yeah, me too.
So how have you been? Like, how is everything?
Things are fine. In a way, not really, because you know the situation around, right? And especially for a programmer whose job is quite monotonous, sitting in one place, coding away, right? It is sometimes important to go to conferences, for example, right? And make the best out of what you're doing and turn it into an actual opportunity to interact with people or just learn from those people, right? So those things that are not there currently are somehow missing, and not just that, it's such a cynical time out there, right? For everybody's family is suffering, but yeah, we can't do anything about that, just talk about it. So what about you? How's everybody? How are things? Is everybody fine?
Yeah, everything is fine, but like we are missing our college life, you know.
All things are going online, so we are now just bored with this.
So hope this pandemic just gets over soon.
I can imagine.
Yeah. So how did a day in your life look like before the pandemic versus how does it look like now?
Oh, that's a very good question, because I would really like to, draw out the comparison and kind of reflect back, right? Because I've not put it down for myself, thinking that, oh, I used to do all of that stuff and now it's not there anymore. So I think before the pandemic, things were really interesting in terms of when I would, my day would go coding away a solution and whatever feature I would be working on. But then I would know that, okay, when this stuff that I'm working on finishes, I have new stuff to work on, which I might present at a conference, or I might just put it out as a blog, which is still available. But you understand the difference, right? How it gets
Yes.
monotonous when
Yeah.
there are
Yeah.
not very. So yeah, that's how it used to be, and I remember that mostly after every 2 weeks there would be something interesting on my plate. I'd have to go to a conference. I'd have to go to a meetup nearby and just talk to people and just learn from them. Not just explain the things that I'm trying to explain, but also learn from them, because it's a learning journey, right? And you always learn. Every new person has something to teach you, and they do, right? Unconsciously they would just teach you something and they would not know. So yeah, that's something that I miss a lot, really. And a day now, don't ask me, it's just so not disciplined, right? I was such a disciplined person back then, and I think about it and I was like, and I'm always like, this is not how I want my day to be, and I try to fix it every day, right? But it's like a journey.
That's all
Let's
of
say
us.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So much
So we
difference in
would wake
between.
up. Exactly. We would just wake up, start working and keep on working until the day finishes. And it's also because the time that it should take, the work should take you, could be just 4 hours, but it somehow becomes like 7 to 8 hours, which it doesn't need to, right? At all.
Right.
So
Really,
such
really.
thing.
Pandemic really changed our way of living.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a good lifestyle. Like, I remember that when the time before pandemic, I would think that, oh, I would just work from home and utilize my time the best way. Now I'll not have to waste the time of going to office and coming back from office and all of those tea breaks that one would take in between, right? I was so happy that I'll have to avoid all of that. I'll work from home and utilize every second, and I'll have a note of whatever I'm doing every minute of my day. But it's like that now, and we're not utilizing that. So I think that's not how it's supposed to work. It has to, the work has to involve a little bit of interaction with people, even if it's a proper developer job, just coding all day. Even then you need that interaction.
Yeah, right.
So yeah.
Okay, so moving on, during this pandemic, everyone has unlocked the creative side. So, do you have any new things that you explored or learned during lockdown?
So when the lockdown started, it was just towards my field. I was learning a lot of things. So I love plural site, okay, as a learning platform. I've never explored Udemy or Coursera much. Udemy is still average, but plural site is the best go-to place for me that I always love, right? And this is something that I loved when I had that time when the lockdown started. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna leave anything on plural site. I would know about each track that's there on plural site. So yeah, my time was utilized very well in the start of the lockdown, and I was actually utilizing every minute of the day, if that's how I have to put it. But then the discipline goes away. You somehow get into that monotonous lifestyle and don't use it properly. So yeah, that was to start with. But then I think when the second lockdown happened, that's when I explored. I wanted to explore the musical side of me, and that's why I got myself a keyboard, piano, and that's what I started doing, and I've gotten pretty good at it now.
Really seems like you have made the most out of the lockdown.
Now, talking about the pandemic only, what were some of the major challenges that you faced and how did you tackle them?
Okay, that's an interesting question. So the challenges that I faced, it's not very much related to the way of working, because I've been used to working in a silo back when I was working at IBM, which was my first job. Even then, there would be a whole team, but I think number one, I love to work by myself, not interact much with people, but also the second thing that I was going to say was that my work was also like this. Like, for example, for a project, I was the only front end developer at that time, right? So it didn't involve much interaction. So, not on that side, but some of the challenges that I faced were related to productivity, right? I know how my productivity went down really badly. And I would write, for example, in a month, I would write 5 blog posts. usually, but then that came down to either one or nothing at all, no blog posts at all. So I think those are some things that I'm trying to still, figure out. And I'm not a morning person, and that's turning out really badly in this pandemic time, because you would, work till late in the night and then just not wake up the next day. And I also wrote a blog post around this, right, where I said live right now, and that's the title of the blog post. And it basically meant, it's a rant, okay? It's a rant where I'm mentioning all the things, like I would start my week, and towards the end of Friday, I would make this big list of the things that I want to achieve over the weekend, okay? And it's like 10 items on that list. And then the Saturday I would start. So let me put it briefly, right? The blog post basically says that you would start on Saturday, not work on anything. You would just be excited about that list you made the previous night, and then not touch it actually, right? You want to touch it, but you will be like all lazy and everything, and you will not work on that. But then towards the end of Saturday, you'd be like anxious about not having done anything. So you would want to try doing something, and then you would pick up two things off that list and then work on one, then realize, oh, I should not have picked this one, but other one. And then the next day you'll be anxious about, starting work on the next day, which is Monday. So yeah, things like that. And it's a little rant that I've put in that blog post. So I think it comes down to productivity that has not been very well. And that's the biggest challenge for me, I guess, that I faced during lockdown.
This pandemic really had been a very tough period for almost everyone. And the way you have used this time in lockdown to learn and help people is really inspirational for all of us.
Yeah, and yeah, that's one thing, right? That was a way to kind of distract ourselves from what has been going on. And it's not just to say that the productivity came down because of, just because you are at home and you're taking things lightly. It's also because of how your mind is so occupied by all the things that are happening around, which make you so negative, and you don't really you just can't focus on the things that you want to, right? You become ambitionless all of a sudden. When you lose somebody, for example, from the family, you feel like, oh, there's nothing with life, what to do. Let's just not focus on the goals or the bucket list that you have.
You have an amazing website named Unravel Web. So can you tell us, how did you come across such a name?
Oh, do you like the name? I was in the opinion that nobody liked the website name, but
it's very unique and perfect. Like,
yeah, so I loved it. The reason being, I was mostly writing blog posts about web, and it was kind of specific, but I then made it on purpose. It was deliberate. So unravel means just exploring something, right? And I also have put it down on the website to ensure everybody understands the meaning of unravel web.dev, right? And I actually wanted to use web.dev, but then that's a standard thing. If you know, web.dev is the Google's blog for putting out information related to web. So yeah, I just wanted to unravel whatever is there related to web, and I think that's kind of why the name came up.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah, don't come back at me if I start writing Golan posts on the same blog.
So I'm moving forward to another question. As we all know, writing and maintaining a blog requires a lot of focus, commitment, and sheer will. How did you get that motivation to start a blog?
Again, a good question. I was in the learning stage of my career, and I was learning things, but then, they always say, right, whenever you're learning something, it's better to write it for yourself, if not anyone else, to be able to come back to it and see that, oh, I learned this, oh, this is the solution. And think of a scenario where you're confused with something when you're doing your, your project, for example, and you type up a question, Google up something, right? And the first answer that comes up is yours, something that you wrote maybe two years back. So I think that's how it helps. And for me to get started, the reason was that whatever I was learning, I was just penning it down somewhere. And you would see that, the initial blog posts that I've written are very informal, and, in a way that would just help me understand whatever I have written. Yeah, so I think that was the motivation.
Yeah, it requires a lot of commitment. We have read your blogs. They are so much well explained and easy to understand.
Thank you.
So you have written like so many blogs, which are both like fun and informative. So how do you come up with ideas for your books?
Yeah, I think that's a very it's not planned. It should be a planned, activity that I should do. I should plan that, okay, this is when I'm gonna write this blog post, and this is how it should be, and that should be the title, and this is the reason. But I think it's very random, the way I have written, and I still want to streamline the whole process. But the way it works is, for example, there's a conference coming up, and I have some concept or idea in my head, and I would just think of the most creative bit of that whole talk or of the whole concept and just put it there. For example, a recent blog post that I wrote was around the concepts of trust, and no, sorry, it was the concepts of JavaScript, and there were some operators which were recently introduced. So it basically said that, okay, you're not able to, so I kind of related it to COVID, right? You're not able to travel, so just stay at home or go out. So it was kind of a nullish coalescing operator of JavaScript with the assignment operator. So you have this plus equals to, right? Which means that A equals A plus B, which is also written as, sorry, A equals A plus 1, which is also written as A plus equals to 1, right? So similarly, to the nullish coalescing operator, which is like A question mark equals to whatever you want to write after that. Just try to do like that.
So for all the Angular fans out there, you can go check out ma'am's incredible book named Step by Step Angular Routing. So can you tell us a bit about your path from thinking of writing a book to finally completing it and publishing it?
Yeah, thanks for that question. I was writing a lot of articles back then, right? And didn't really think of writing a book, but then when the articles I was writing were quite big and would turn out to be a chapter actually. So I thought that if I write a book, I'll not take it as this big book that I have to write, right? Because it'll become a burden on myself, and it will seem like a process that's just very difficult to do. So I didn't take it like that. It was like every day I would come back from office and I'd focus on completing one blog post, which is kind of one chapter of that book. Right, so it was a reason of those 12 blog posts that I've written, 12 chapters actually, right? So that's how the process was, and that's why it didn't seem very difficult to me. And also, I didn't, it didn't come out as very difficult when I was talking about the book, because it was just those 12 articles for me, which were very well, obviously researched and learned about and explained about as per my understanding. So yeah, it's not that one book that I wrote and decided to write it. It's just those 12 blog posts that kind of comprise in that whole book.
Yeah. So and only a subtle mentality like that can help you and write and publish such an amazing book. Hoping you write more books in future.
Oh yeah, I hope to. I just want to get over this time, which is just not letting me.
You not only write but also read a lot of amazing books. So what are your favorite books to read by genre?
I think it's not very specific. There's no specific genre that I would prefer, but I love anything that's around philosophy. I love anything that's around history. I try to. It's another thing that I get bored in the middle of the book, but yeah, I try to. And for example, there are also movies like Surgical Strike, Uri, right? So books around such concepts are also very interesting. So I try to read those.
That's wonderful. Someone has rightly said this, that a room without a book is like a body without a soul.
Yeah, that's true. So true. Also, just a very small piece of information, there are so many people, right, who just can't get them to read a book because it's not an easy task to start, right? So there's this other concept of human libraries where the author of the book reads out his book to you, and not really like literally read it, but they would explain the whole concept of the book, the whole story, they would read out it to you. So there's this concept, human library. So if anyone who struggles to read, go for a human library, just hear it, right? There are also concepts like Audible and everything, but it's not the author reading it out to you. So
I'm sure this will help them.
Yeah. So we found that you are very much active towards social work. So can you tell us how did you start that journey?
So thanks for noticing that. I don't know how you've noticed that, but yeah, I do love that, and I've try to do as much as I can, and it's not really in the form of like donations or things like that, but it's more like connecting heartily, right? It's not something that I try to do because I'm like it's I'll put it like, I don't think that the small amount of uh, financial help, for example, that I do would help them as much as that heartily help would do, right? Because
Yeah.
I think the people out there, they miss this, right? People would give them a lot of food to it and a lot of money to it, but it's still something that would make them feel that, okay, I'm getting it, and I'm in the state, but I just want to make them feel that, oh, they can also do this, for example. And it's from very early stage of my life. It's not something recent that I started, right? When I was in, I think, the first year of university, that's when on my birthday, because I thought of it as an opportunity. It's not just that I wanted to do it on my birthday, but that was a day when I thought of doing this. And the reason, and the thing that I did was, I went to the restaurant that we usually go to, and we were entering that restaurant once with my family, and there were people around. They were usually begging there, or just there, so they were restricted from coming inside and just stepping into the restaurant, and that felt so bad because we were easily entering and they were just restricted from there. So the next, when I went on that first day of my university, I took permission from the restaurant and asked them that there would be people from there accompanying me, and they had to agree, right? Because I'm paying them after all. So they agreed, and then there were like 5 to 6 small kids with me, and all of us went to that restaurant, ate whatever they wanted to eat. We, took all of that stuff, and it's no money, right? It's not gonna help them in the long run because the food they're eating, and it's just one time thing, right? But then that would always make them feel loved and happy that, okay, somebody took us inside there, and we were able to experience what others experience. We were able to go into that 3-star or 4-star hotel and eat there with other people who are actually paying and eating there. So I think, yeah, I just want to do those things to connect at that level. And a more formal and official way of doing it was after, I think it was the 4th year of my university, when I started to volunteer. It was a program called Voluntary Service Overseas, VSO, and they have this program ICS, which is International Citizen Service, and they select like nationals, 10 to 20 Indian nationals, to go for this program, work in any village of India. It's at first level, it's within India, and then you could go to Cambodia or Bangladesh, or basically anywhere where you would want to do welfare. So what I worked on, I went to Jharkhand, and what I worked on was 3 sustainable development goals, 3 SDGs. One was the education of girl child, second was women empowerment, and there's a more formal word to that SDG, the item, and the third one was livelihood in general. So how the sources of income could be improved with whatever resources are available. So yeah, it was a 3-month internship, and just the best part of my life, I would say.
That's so kind and generous of you. But of having such a good life, you take time to the people and for charity organization.
Okay, moving on. We'll talk a little bit about your professional life. How did you earn an opportunity to be a software developer at IBM?
Right. So it was a campus placement. I studied in Manav Rachna University, and I used to do a lot of projects with Microsoft when I was in the university. So there's a competition, if you're aware of, Microsoft Imagine Cup, and I participated in that twice, like the second year of my college and the third year of my college, and we went to nationals. So it was quite an achievement, and I think that was one of the reasons that I got selected for IBM, because it was all there in the resume, right? And the interview process. So I remember in my IBM interview, I was asked about all the experience that I had during Imagine Cup, and I also did an internship in Hyderabad, so I learned some Telugu there, right? I picked up that language. So my interviewer actually knew Telugu. He could speak, I guess, Telugu. So he asked me to speak something in Telugu. And so it was a very casual and fun interview that was there. And yeah, that's how I went to IBM.
Wow, that's really great.
along with being the Google developer expert in Angular, you are also a Microsoft MVP. So can you tell us a bit about your journey of becoming Microsoft MVP?
Sure. So, like we talked about writing blog posts earlier, right? So my learning journey started with writing blog posts, but that turned into, more about explaining whatever I knew to other people, and it was mostly contributing to community through blog posts, through talks that I would do. It would be around the concept that I was learning or I was good at, or I had experience, things like that. And basically these were the contributions that I was doing, and then book became the third one, right, with the book that I wrote. So this is also something that counts as a contribution towards community, because a lot of people will be learning routing from that book, Angular routing, which in itself is a very vast topic, right? So yeah, these three are mainly the things. And what Microsoft MVP as an award requires is you're doing some community work, you're helping people through your knowledge, you're sharing your knowledge whichever way. You could do some open source projects, you could do you could write blog posts because they are the best source of learning, right? I also would prefer to read from a blog post when I'm stuck at some problem in my code. So yeah, I think these are some of the things that help you reach towards that. If you take it as a goal, the idea of the program is simple though, that they just want you to keep contributing, and just think of it as an award which you might be getting if you're actually helping and reaching a lot of people and helping them with their knowledge, your knowledge.
Being the first female Google developer expert in Angular from India, what advice would you like to give to someone who wants to become a Google developer expert?
Okay, you guys have a lot of data points. I see you've gone through a lot of things, right?
That's what we do.
Yeah, because when you're asking me questions, it's evident, right, that you have a lot of things that you've gone through, and these things, because it's not outright there very explicitly, right? So yeah, thanks for that question. I think the advice would not be based on that I was the first Google developer expert in Angular. It would more be based on the time that the things took, and it's mostly about how much effort you put in, and they always talk about consistency, right? So that's the key. And it's not that I would write one blog post one day and then whenever I feel I would write it. It was actually a daily thing. Whenever I would come back from office, I would think of thinking about a new idea that I want to integrate into my blog post, and writing it daily. So the idea is just share whatever you're learning on a daily basis, or just on a regular basis whenever you can, and this would help you in the long run. You don't have to try towards that target. You will be approached if you're doing that hard work, because there are so many people who want to make you a Google developer expert, right? The program wants you. You just have to do your work. You just have to showcase those skills, and somebody will approach you. And and there's this other thing as well, which is called nomination by a GDE. So if you know that you're already doing a lot of work and you think that you're capable for the program, just reach out to an existing GDE and ask them that, see, I'm doing this much, and I really think that I'm helping people, because there are so many people in colleges also now who are doing so much open source activity, right? I think there are people in college who have done more open source activity, or me or anybody else, right, of our age, of our experience. So it just doesn't depend on that. It's just, if you think that you're doing that much work, if you're helping people, there's no quantitative amount of this that you should have written 100. No, it's not that. You should just help people, just that, and then approach an existing GDE or anybody that you think could help, and ask them to nominate you. If this works out well, that's great for you. Otherwise, just continue your hard work. That's the advice I have been given. So I'm just trying to impart that.
Since you have written a book, lots of blogs, conducted several seminars, and worked vastly on projects based on Angular framework, what made you choose Angular for your development career?
Okay, so I think it was I started learning Angular when I started my career, and the learning curve was not very steep. It was easy to learn. It was easy to start getting started with. So that's what I tell everyone every time, that if you're starting your first project, don't think much about the technology. Just get started with whatever feels easier. For me, it was Angular. I felt that okay, it was not a crazy steep learning curve. It was not that, oh, I'll have to spend like a month or two to just learn the thing and then get started to either write my blog post, create my blog post, or do any other project that I wish to. So it was not that, and whatever felt easier, I started with that. So it was no specific reason about the performance or the framework being lighter. It was not that. It was just the idea that it was simple to get started with, and it was what I was introduced to, exposed to at that time. So for everybody who's out there thinking that which framework they should choose, just don't think about it. Just get started with React or Angular, and whatever feels easier, whatever makes your app turn out better, just use that.
You surely made a great choice. Angular is so popular and widely used these days.
Yes. Definitely, especially for enterprise level applications. That's just the go-to framework.
Yeah, right. So you've made so many projects and also have a lot of experience working with various companies. So out of all those projects, which is that one project that you're most proud of?
Okay, that's a good question. So it was back in 2018, I guess, when I was preparing for this talk, which was around web components, right? And the idea was to be able to develop a particular, let's say, a particular component that is in one framework, but then you don't want to repeat that stuff that you did in any other framework. When you change jobs, when you change project, anything like that, you just don't want to repeat that same effort. For example, a calendar component, right? You built it very perfectly. You did all the things with that component. You spent a lot of time in that, but it was an Angular. Now you're in a React project and you have the requirement of a calendar component again. What would you do? Do you want to repeat that effort? No, right? So you would want to look for a reusable solution, and that's where web components come into picture. And that's where I decided that I'll create this calendar component as a web component, but in Angular. And then whenever I have to use it, I'll just push it to a common repository or anywhere, or just push it to npm, right? And then whenever I need it in React, Svelte, or vanilla JavaScript, I'll just pick it up from there and provide it some properties that it's asking for as the input to it, and just use that. So that web component, and this is called framework agnostic web components, because it doesn't depend on the framework, right? So it's agnostic of the framework, and you would be able to use that web component anywhere. There were definitely issues with, for example, data binding when it comes to Angular, because Angular is not that there are many things like specifically to the way Angular works in terms of binding. It was not easy to interact with other frameworks. It had some polyfills that it would always require. It had some other dependencies that would be required in all the other frameworks that we use. So that's still there, but yeah, it improves over time. So I think that's the project that I'm definitely proud of, because what's better than doing a thing once and then using it everywhere you need it.
Everyone has that person that they regard as a role model. Whom do you regard as a role model in both personal as well as technical field?
Okay, that puts me into a spot where I have to think a bit. So I think on the professional side, I'm not sure how many people know DJ Dhananjay Kumar. He is into the technical field for a while now, and he is the one who got me started into technical fields, especially introduced me to Angular, taught me Angular at 6 a.m. in the morning when I was working on a project. So yeah, he's definitely the one, not because of the reason he taught me or he got introduced me to it, but due to the fact of his consistency and that passion towards the thing that he's doing is something that I still would crave for, that I would still seek. So that's on the personal front. And on the personal end, I don't really know, I'm still figuring out.
That's really inspiring.
So now we'll move on to the most exciting part of our show, which is we'll play a game where we'll give you a word and you'll have to say the first word that comes to your mind without thinking.
Wow, that's a difficult one. Let's try.
Okay, so let's start.
So I'll take up with first, okay? Movie.
Masan.
So next is music.
Music, I don't know, TikTok.
God.
Picking up music from TikTok these days, right? So,
Yeah.
like there used to be such good music, but now whatever people hear on TikTok, even me, right? Because everybody around me is listening to the music that comes or just gets into the trend due to those Instagram
Yeah.
reels or
Ah,
TikTok.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So now going
yeah.
ahead.
Bad. Good.
Next comes one is magical.
Magical superpowers.
Okay. Happiness.
Happiness, family.
That's true.
That's true. Now, school.
School, nostalgia.
Okay.
Okay.
Peace.
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 Okay, I think beaches. Beaches, I love beaches, right? And they're so peaceful.
Yeah. Truly.
So that was indeed a good icebreaker.
Yeah. So, well, getting back from where we left off, is there any person you admire in the field of tech and would like to work with someday?
Okay, I'll have to think on this a bit, but can't really come up with any. Okay, so he's not a technical person, but he's someone who was nominated for Nobel Prize, and he's Kailash Satyarthi. Have you heard his name?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so I think that is the person I would love to work with. I've heard, I've read about him, and he would go on his bicycle to teach people, and he's not earning anything out of that, but he would still he's I think teaching kids in another village, so he would have to travel some crazy distance, but he would do that every day and go there to teach people. So yeah, I think I would love to work with him someday, be it in technical terms, building a website for them, or anything else, just in whatever capacity.
That's really good. We wish you get to work with them one day.
Thank you.
So every student in his or her life has like this one dream job. So what would your future dream job look like?
Okay, owning all the companies, like becoming the monopoly, right? Just like the way Google, Microsoft, all those companies are becoming, buying everything. Slack is also recently acquired, right, by Salesforce. So yeah, I want to become that one company which acquires every other company, and I am that company. I'm the boss of that company.
You actually truly deserve it. Good luck for your dream future.
Thank you.
So, you have given so many inspiring talks all around the world. So, can you give us some tips on how to remove stage fear and become a confident speaker?
Good question again. I was given this advice when I started speaking, and this was again from my mentor, DJ Dhananjay Kumar. And he said that when you're on the stage, don't be like someone who's on the stage, right, and who's delivering and who's sharing the great information that he has. Be one of the people in the audience. Just be like somebody who's come from the audience, just got from the audience, got up and came on the stage talking about it, and just be as naive and innocent as you were when you were in the audience, when you were on the other side, because only then is when people connect to you. Otherwise they would hear to your talk one day, look up to you, make you their inspiration maybe, but then still not relate, right? So that feeling of relating to somebody who's on the other side is required if you really want people to succeed, if you really want people to be helped from whatever you're sharing. So it's not just the technical information that you're giving, it's about how people are overall getting inspired and learning from you. So yeah, that's one thing. But to answer the second part of your question, which is how to get rid of stage fear, right? The stage fear will still be there even if you are going on the stage casually. So I think to improve that, practice is one, definitely. I remember when I was in class 6, right, in school, and we were talking about nostalgia of school. So just remember this. I started giving speeches, and it would be debates, it would be declamation competitions. It would be just the speech on Republic Day or Independence Day. There would be this whole school, sitting in front of me, and there would be this one mic which was there in that middle of the ground, and I would speak there. Though nervous, though very scared, my legs would be shivering, but I would still do that, right? Because I have been preparing for a month or so, right? Those rehearsals would go on for a month, which were there for Republic Day or Independence Day. So starting from there is great, but then if you've not done that already, just practice, I think, is the key. And just be casual on the stage, right? Don't think of yourself as somebody who's going to the stage and who has to be this prim, proper person who has to be perfect on the stage. Make mistakes, it's fine. I still make mistakes in all the talks that I do, and then hate myself later on when I step back, right? And hate myself for saying a particular thing that I said, but then it's fine. In the next one, you won't make that mistake.
Thank you so much for these amazing tips, ma'am. And it will really boost the confidence of the students the next time they have to talk in front of the audience.
I hope so.
There are many ML models which can generate code on its own. What are your thoughts about the fact that people say in future software engineers will replace by ML models who will write code by themselves?
So in a way, you might also have heard about GitHub Copilot, right? Which helps you.
Yes.
So there are so many things like that which are going to help people do their job, not really replace them. AI is not that strong enough to replace a human right now. It's just going to help people. And even if it's going to take up some jobs, like taking a Figma design and creating a code out of it, right? Making a React code out of that Figma design. It's okay, that's just one component. Who thought about the logic? It's you who's giving it the logic, right? No, AI will create logic, but then it comes down to idea. Who'll give the idea? Will AI give you an idea of a startup? No, right? So there are so many jobs that it will create. It will replace some of those, but then it will create another ones. So I think it's an ongoing journey. This doesn't make much sense to me that I, as a coder, will be replaced because, AI is doing it for me. No, I'll be doing something else. I'll be helping AI, or AI will be helping me in my job. For example, at my current job, what we do is we scrape websites, right? And we would build templates to, for example, extract the name from a website, to extract the product description from that website. We do that right now, but the idea is to have a web copilot, which would do it for you, which would see that, okay, on this page, this seems to be the description due to certain criteria, and let's just extract it and call it the product description. This seems to be the name of the product due to some criteria. Maybe that it's the biggest text on the page, maybe that it's near the image, that's why it's the name, maybe that it kind of describes what this product that you see in the image is, that's why it's the name, things like that, right? So does that mean now I don't need to participate in the scraping of the website? No, right? It just means that AI is going to tell you that on the basis of certain criteria that you gave me, I decide that this is the name of the product. And that then its job just finishes, right? Next is you to check if that's correct. If AI is going wrong, how many patterns you have to follow, how many other criteria you will need to use, because there's diverse websites, right? One website might give you the name of the product someday, somewhere near the footer. What would you say? Is that the name of the product? The AI model is going to get confused then, right? So human always comes into picture.
That answer from Nishu Ma'am will really debunk the worries of the people that software engineers will go extinct because of AI.
Yeah, we can say that it might, replace some jobs, but it's definitely going to create some more, much more better jobs, which humans are capable of doing.
So coming to our last question, what message would you like to convey to our budding engineers?
I think this is to everyone who's listening to me, plus to myself, plus to, all of you, the host, the lovely host who's been so kind to me, is that just enjoy coding.
So thank you so much, ma'am, for this amazing advice. I'm pretty sure, our viewers will get help from it. On that note, we come to the end of the third episode of the season 2 of the CSI Show. Thank you so much, ma'am, for having such an amazing conversation with us. It really means a lot.
It was an honor to get to know you, ma'am, and we hope you enjoyed talking with us. And to all the viewers out there, thank you so much for watching the CSI show.
Make sure to like, comment, and share, and also hit the bell icon to not miss out on any updates from the CSI show. Until the next episode, go ahead and make
It
happen.
so
Thank you
much
so
fun.
much for having me.